Join me as we cover a full deck tech for Avatar Aang. Hello everybody and welcome back into the fort where we make magic more accessible for everyone. My name is Tyler Saves Ya Bucks and this is a big one today. We're talking about Avatar Aang. This is a full 99. A lot of it is made off of cards from the set, so if you've already opened a lot of boosters, you probably have a lot of these cards just sitting on your table. We're going to be going over every single card in the deck. First up, we'll be going over cards from the set, and then later on, I have some great budget cards from outside of the set that'll help buff up this deck, as well as a really good budget land base to support a 5-color deck. But let's get started with Avatar Aang. First and foremost, red, green, white, and blue. Human Avatar Ally, 4/4 flying, firebending 2. Whenever you waterbend, earthbend, firebend, or airbend, draw a card. Then, if you've done all 4 this turn, transform Avatar Aang, flips over into Aang, Master of Elements. Flying 6/6, spells you cast cost Wooburg less to cast. This can reduce generic costs. At the beginning of each upkeep, actually, you may transform Aang, Master of Elements. If you do, you gain 4 life, draw 4 cards, put 4 counters on him, and he deals 4 damage to each opponent. Now, when it comes to this list, that's very powerful, of course. But when it comes to this list, we're not necessarily always trying to flip. We're just trying to bend as much as possible, because when you do that, you draw a card, which is huge, especially when it comes to firebending. Like Aang has, you attack, you firebend, you make 2 red mana, and then you draw a card in the process. Let's go over a lot of these cards. I'm going to go as fast as I can, so bear with me. And first up and foremost, great start. Haru, Hidden Talent, is a 2-mana creature that when it enters, you earthbend 1. That means you can have a land become a 0/0 creature with haste. It's still a land, and you put 1 counter on it because earthbend 1. If it dies or is put into exile, you return it to the battlefield tapped. This is good early game. It's 2 creatures basically for the price of 1, but also late game, you can pay 2, put this onto the field, earthbend, and draw a card when you have Aang out. Azula on the Hunt. Now, I know Azula doesn't really pair up with Aang often, but let's look past that. It's a 4-mana creature, firebending 2. When it attacks, you lose 1 life and create a clue token. What's cool about that is that 2 mana you make when she attacks, you can put right into the clue and draw a card. Sun Warriors, 4 mana. Firebending X, where X is the number of creatures you control, which is kind of huge. And then you can pay 5, create an ally creature token. There is some ally synergies in this because that's a big thing in the set, but also Firebending X, that's really strong when you have some mana dumps in the deck, like paying 5 and making an ally. Toph, the Blind Bandit, 3 mana. When it enters, you earthbend 2, and its power is equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on lands you control. So this could either be 2, 3, or very, very big as the game goes on. Uncle Iroh is 1 Gruul. Firebending 1 and lessen spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. There are some lessons in the deck. Zuko, Exiled Prince. This is when he's trying to find Avatar Aang, which he should just look in the command zone if he's in this deck. 4 mana for firebending 3, and then for 3 mana, you can exile the top card of your library. You may play that this turn. This is kind of like Azula, how that 3 mana can go right into its activated ability. Appa, Loyal Sky Bison. This is 6 mana. When it enters or attacks, choose 1. Target creature you control gains flying until end of turn, or airbend another target non-land permanent you control. Not too many things have airbending in this set because of the fact that Aang is the last airbender, but this is a repeatable way to help give evasion to something, but also it allows you to airbend something, and maybe that is what helps trigger Aang to flip on that big turn that we are all looking to get to. Badger Mole is 6 mana. When enters, earthbend 2. Creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. Helps with all the earthbended lands you have, but also if you do flip Aang and then he gets all those counters, now he'll have trample too. Katara, Bending Prodigy, 3 mana. At the beginning of your end step, if Katara is tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on her. Waterbend 6, draw a card. So Waterbending says, while paying a Waterbend cost, you may tap your artifacts and creatures to help. Each one pays for 1 generic. Waterbending also works really well with Firebending. If you make 6 red mana, when you attack, you can dump all of that into Waterbending, which makes sense if you don't think about it. But what's cool about it is the fact that that mana now has an outlet, and it's Waterbending, which works really well in the deck. Water Tribe Rallier, 2 mana, 2/2. Waterbend 5, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature with power 3 or less from among them. Put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Again, it's just a nice mana outlet that you can put a bunch of stuff into and draw a good value creature. Boiling Rock Rioter is 3 mana, Firebending 1. Tap an untapped ally you control, exile target card from a graveyard. Whenever this creature attacks, you may cast an ally spell from among cards you own in exile with this creature. Nice little recursion. Also only 3 mana. Helps give you more Firebending. It works in the deck. Fire Sages is a 2 mana, 2/2 with Firebending 1. And then 3 mana, put a +1 counter on this creature. 2 mana to give you a Firebender that when you attack, draw a card. Not the worst. Rough Rhino Cavalry, 6 mana. Whoa, not 6. 5 mana for Firebending 2. And then has Exhaust for 8. Put 2 +1 counters on this creature. It gains Trample until end of turn. Another mana outlet, but also just a Firebender to help draw those cards. Daily Agents is really, really strong in the deck. 5 mana. When it enters, Earthbend 1, then Earthbend 1, which could draw you 2 cards. Whenever this creature attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them. This deck, as you've seen, already has ways to get counters on themselves, plus all the Earthbending, plus Aang can get counters if he flips. This could possibly close out the game in a specific combat when you have all those creatures. Rebellious Captives, 2 mana, has Exhaust. Put 2 +1 counters on this creature, then Earthbend 2. Now, that might be a lot, but again, it's just a 2 mana creature you can get out and then dump a bunch of mana into. North Pole Patrol. Wow. North Pole Patrol is 3 mana. You can tap it, untap target permanent you control, and then Waterbend 3, tap target creature and opponent controls. Helpful for untapping maybe an earthbended land or something like that, as well as tapping down somebody's creature. Beifong's Bounty Hunters. I hate these guys. This is 4 mana. Whenever a non-land creature you control dies, Earthbend X, where X is that creature's power. Helpful. A lot of stuff has good ETB triggers we've talked about, but this is kind of good if something dies. Plus, it's just really strong with the fact that now something dying means you get a new creature or buff up a land already that you have earthbended and draw a card in the process. Earthen Ally, 1 mana, 0/2. This creature gets +1/+0 for each color among allies you control, and then it has a big cost there to Earthbend 5. But what's great about this is it's a turn 1 thing. It can be very big, especially when you have your commander out that is at least 4 colors on its own. Vindictive Warden, I believe this is George Decay. 3 mana, Menace, Firebending 1, and then 3. This creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. This could just close out a game if people's life totals are low enough. You have a lot of Firebending mana, a lot of mana on the board. Dump into Vindictive Warden and ping everybody's life totals down. Giant Koi. Now, you probably won't be casting this for the full 6. Waterbend, this creature can't be blocked this turn for 3. That's not the worst. It does have island cycling for 2, which means you can pay 2, throw it away, and go get an island. There are some lands in this deck that have multiple types. Katara, Water Tribe's Hope is 5 mana, Vigilance. When it enters, create an ally creature token. Waterbend X. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn, where X and X can't be 0. Activate only during your turn. What's interesting about this Katara in the deck is the fact that you can tap a creature to Waterbend 1, Now everything has base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn, and draw a card. And then the next creature, tap 1 and draw a card, and so on and so forth for how many times you want to waterbend. Because of the fact it doesn't limit how many times you can waterbend, it just says you can only do it on your turn. Yes, it is going to be really good if you dump a whole bunch of mana or resources into this and give all of your creatures a big power and toughness, but also it could be an interesting way to refill your hand when people don't think you have a way to do it. Loyal Fire Sage, I love this guy. 3 mana, 3/3, Firebending 1, 5, create a white ally creature token. The cards are right, but the character is awesome. Firebending Student, 2 mana, prowess, and Firebend X for X is this creature's power. Great turn 2 play. Earthbending Student. Now this is from the Jumpstart product, but maybe you've picked up a few Jumpstart packs. 3 mana, when it enters Earthbend 2, land creatures you control have vigilance. Very nice. Boomy Eclectic Earthbender is 5 mana, also from the Jumpstart. When it enters Earthbend 1, whenever Boomy attacks, put 2 counters on each land creature you control. The TCG price is showing like that, about 14. Card Kingdom is saying about 5. We'll see what it averages out to, but this is just very nice in the deck. If it is too expensive and you don't have one already, there's some other good boomies and other good cards that I didn't want to fill this deck with because I thought that they might grow even more in prices. But if you have some great bending cards that I haven't talked about, put them in this deck. Bitter Work is an enchantment for 3 mana. Whenever you attack a player with 1 or more creatures with power 4 or greater, draw a card and exhaust 4, Earthbend 4. Activate only during your turn. Earthbending will help you draw a card, give you even more power on the board. But there's a lot of big creatures in this deck. If you attack this player, and this player with a creature with power 4 or greater, you're going to draw a card for each one of those. So it's a nice little card that helps ensure that you're continuing to draw your cards. Easy for me to say. Aang's Iceberg, 3 mana flash. When this enchantment enters, exile up to 1 other target non-land permanent until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Waterbend 3, sacrifice this enchantment. If you do, scry 2. Just a nice little O-ring effect, but it has flash, which makes it a little bit better than some of the exile enchantments that we've seen in the past. Earthbender Ascension. All these Ascensions are kind of interesting if you ask me. 3 mana, when this enchantment enters, Earthbend 2, then search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. When you do, if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, put a +1 counter on target creature you control. It gains trample. I almost made it through all the way without stuttering. This is just strong. It is ramp. It comes down right before you cast Aang. And if you cast it after Aang, you're going to Earthbend, draw the card. And giving something a counter and attacking and giving something trample can help push your damage over the top for your opponents to not be fully ready for. Because look, there's so much text on this. Who's going to be able to go, how many counters until that thing happens? No one's going to ask that. Watery Grasp is 1 mana for an enchantment. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during his controller's untap step. Waterbend 5, enchanted creature's owner shuffles it into their library. It's just a thematic card that helps lock down a creature and at the same time allows you to waterbend. Firebender Ascension, 2 mana. When it enters, create a 2/2 red soldier creature token with Firebending 1. Whenever a creature you control attacking causes a triggered ability of that creature to trigger. Wow. Put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then, if it has 4 or more quest counters, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. It works really well with Firebending, and your commander has Firebending, and it makes it happen twice. Airbender Ascension, 2 mana. When it enters, airbend up to 1 target creature. Whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Again, This is going to help with that airbending. There's not too much airbending in the set, and this will assist with that. And as we've seen, there's so many creatures here in the deck that have enter the battlefield abilities. Reusing those are going to be very, very helpful to keep this deck moving along. Solid Ground is a 4 mana enchantment that enters, you earthbend 3, and then if +1 counters are put on something, you put an additional 1. So it's kind of like Hardened Scales, but it gives you a creature in the process. Really good in the deck, and I believe this is also from the Jumpstart product. Waterbender Ascension. 2 mana. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a quest counter on this enchantment. Then, if it has 4 or more quest counters on it, draw a card. Kind of a coastal piracy effect. Waterbend 4, target creature can't be blocked this turn. That's helpful. Again, you have big creatures, maybe waterbending, helping something get through, drawing a card in the process is all very good. And then if it gets to that card draw effect moment with all the quest counters, all of a sudden you're drawing so many cards. You know, I didn't put a Reliquary Tower in this list, so maybe you might want to pick one of those up. Energy Bending, 2 mana, lands you control, gain all basic land types until end of turn, draw a card. This is a lesson, so it helps with a few of the lesson things we talked about. I think we talked about maybe one, but it's the fact that this is kind of a budget deck. So giving all of your creatures all basic land types until end of turn, drawing a card in the process, will help you then cast some spells if you're stuck on a certain color. Cycle of Renewal is 2 and a green for an instant. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. What's great about this is it's an instant, and you can cast it with Firebending mana. If you hold up a green, attack with, say, Aang, make 2 red, spend it on this. It's very nice. Airbender's Reversal, 2 mana, instant, choose 1, destroy target attacking creature, or airbend target creature you control. Just very useful in the deck. Airbending Lesson, this is 3 mana for an instant, airbend target non-land permanent, draw a card. Again, just adding more airbending to the deck. Enter the Avatar State, 1 mana for an instant until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes an avatar in addition to its other types and gains flying, first strike, lifelink, and hexproof. This can help save something big on your board while at the same time just gaining you some life. And some of the cards we've talked about today already are in a bulk video that I made about the best commons and uncommons from the set. So definitely check that one out. Origin of Metal Bending. This is one in that same video. 2 mana for an instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or put a +1 counter on target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. This card is awesome. How to Start a Riot is 3 mana. Target creature gains menace until end of turn, and creatures target player controls gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Very strong in the deck. Buff up your board and give something kind of some evasion. Fire Nation attacks, 5 mana for an instant, create 2/2/2 red soldier creature tokens with Firebending 1, flashback for 9. Now, this isn't the craziest thing ever that you might see, but remember, you have all these firebending creatures that if you attack with enough that makes 5 mana, just dump it right into this and make even more firebenders. Earth Rumble, 4 mana, Earthbend 2. When you do, up to 1 target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. Just some nice removal and giving you some more bending. Waterbending Lesson, 3 mana, draw 3 cards, then discard a card unless you waterbend 2. Good card draw while also allowing you to bend. Cracked Earth Technique. This is 5 mana, Earthbend 3, then Earthbend 3, you gain 3 life. And in this deck, if you have Aang out, that's draw a card, gain 3 life, get more creatures on the board. Crashing Wave is blue. For a sorcery, as an additional cost to cast this spell, Waterbend X. Tap up to X target creatures, then distribute 3 stun counters among tapped creatures your opponents control. What's cool about this is you don't have to earth or waterbend. When you cast this, you can still put those 3 stun counters across the board, which will just lock down some problematic creatures in the process of the game that you don't want to swing into. Shared Roots, we have a brand new Rampant Growth in Standard, everybody. This is a 2-mana sorcery. Search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. If you like Rampant Growth, you should grab one of these. Avatar's Wrath. This is 4 mana, choose up to 1 target creature, then airbend all other creatures. Until your next turn, your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. Exile Avatar's Wrath. A lot of people are talking about how amazing this card is, and I'm going to echo that. The fact that you exile all the other creatures, including yours, but you get to keep probably Aang on the board, and then you get to rebuild faster because you can cast stuff from not your hand, but everyone else is locked out for 1 turn rotation, means that you can possibly rebuild on your turn and then rebuild a little bit more on your turn while you're attacking and getting all of that value. Bender's Water Skin. I do think that this 3 mana rock is worth it in Commander. Untap this artifact during each other player's untap step. Tap it for a mana of any color. Helps with color fixing in the deck, while at the same time being good for water bending. And now we're moving on to cards from outside of the set that are budget friendly, but will help buff up and help this hang with other decks that might sit down at the table. This has become the Avalanche, which is really, really thematic. So it almost feels like it should have been in the set. 6 mana, sorcery, draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Then creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. I've talked about it a lot. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards in this deck. And then if you buff up your whole board and swing on through, this could just help you end the game. Commune with Lava. This is so good in firebending decks. It is X red for an instant. Exile the top X cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. If you don't have anything to put all that red mana into, why not give yourself access to a whole bunch of the cards off the top of your library? Shamanic Revelation, again, just fits so well in with the Avatar theme. 3 green for a sorcery. Draw a card for each creature you control, and then if you have Ferocious, you gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Very, very good in the deck. There are big creatures like we've talked about, but also there's going to be a lot of creatures, especially your earthbended creatures. Now all of a sudden you're going to refill your hand from just casting this and gaining a bunch of life. This card's good. Overwhelming Stampede. This kind of reminded me of when Aang led all the animals in Ba Sing Se through the wall and out into a new pasture. This is a 5 mana sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. This is a game ender in this deck, especially if you are flipping Aang at any point and growing them bigger and bigger. Harrow. This is just like Cycle of Renewal that we talked about, but in this case, the lands come into play untapped, and you can do the whole thing casting at instant speed, which is nice. Roiling Regrowth is exactly like Cycle of Renewal. They do come into play tapped. Arcane Signet, colorless way to fix your mana, very important in the deck. Cultivate, get a land onto the battlefield and put another land into your hand, also very helpful. Felwar Stone, colorless way to fix your mana in the deck. Feyburl Elder is 1 green and a white. This is one of the best mana dorks in the format. This creature gets +1/+1 for each color among permanents you control, and then tap for each color among permanents you control. Add 1 mana of that color. If you have Aang out alone, that's tapping for 4 mana. Very strong. Entis Restoration. This is 3 mana for an instant. It's very similar to some of the cards we talked about today, but if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, you search your library for 3 basic lands and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Abrade, very useful for your firebending, especially Firebend 2. If you just attack with Aang, you can cast Abrade for basically free then. Path to Exile, because it's Path to Exile. Now we're on the lands, and like I said, I did a budget land base for this deck. Some of them have little tricks, like these cards here. They are a mountain forest, so that you can search them up with land types, but also they have cycling for 2, which means if you have too many lands in your hand and you firebend, you can throw this away and draw a new card. So I thought that was very useful, as well as the temples. So if you happen to earthbend a temple and the temple dies, it'll come back to the battlefield tapped and you'll scry all over again. Game trail, we have a lot of mountains, we have a lot of forests, I will say, in the deck, so this can kind of reasonably come into play untapped. Well, of course, we have swamp, temple of abandon, yes, more of the temples. This is a way to filter any color into green and red when you're trying to cast stuff with firebending. Say it's one of those cycle of renewals or instant speed ramp, you can then dump some of that red mana into this and make it green. Path of Ancestry, I talk about it all the time. This should be in pretty much all of your decks that are one or more, I would say 2 or more colors. Of course, you want to fix, but at the same time, the fact that it's just a 5-color land that, comes into play tapped, it'll help scry you often, especially with Aang, who has 3 very common creature types in this deck. More of the temples. A few of the tri-lands are in here. I love the Pain lands, so a few of those are here. Exotic Orchard. Scattered Groves. This is another way to cycle. Seaside Citadel. Battlefield Forge. So forests, I have 7 in the deck. Every other basic land just has 1, but there's 7 forests in the deck because that's one of the biggest ways you're going to be able to color fix is casting a lot of your ramp spells. Command Tower, of course. Island, Adakar Wastes, Sun Petal Grove, again, a lot of forests, so this can come into play untapped. Llanowar Wastes, more Pain lands, Rockfell Vale, very nice, enters tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands, so just play it on your 3rd turn. And the last land is Overgrown Farmland. So there you have it, a full 99 to build around Avatar Aang. I know this was a lot to go through. The full deck list will be down in the description, and I also wrote an article about this for EDH Rec that you can check out as well to see even more an in-depth analysis that I've given this commander and this deck. Let me know if you would add any cards to the list. Like I said, I excluded some really big bombs from the set because of the fact that I'm pretty sure they're going to be very expensive. So if you pull them, definitely put them in this deck. Aang is a great home for a lot of those cards, so don't be shy when it comes to adding them into this deck. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to draw you a lot of cards, and it's going to be very splashy. So I hope you have fun with it. If you want to see even more Avatar content, you can check out the rest of the channel and all the articles I'm writing for EDH Rec. And speaking of the channel, I hope to see everybody back here next time, right here in the fort. Goodbye.